'Tis the day for Americans to comment on Canadian politics, which seems to be a growing circumstance, issue, problem. I don't really know what you want to call it, but Canadian politics, at least Justin Trudeau, is the center of not only our focus here in Canada, unfortunately, but the focus of a lot of other countries and business people, businessmen, but in particular, America. Fox News had Kevin O'Leary on earlier, and he discussed the fact that he's going down to Mar-a-Lago, going to meet Trump, and talking about how he can start the process to acquire Canada through Trump, which is a crazy thing to even entertain. Or is it? Welcome back to the channel. Welcome back to another video, everybody. Before we get into it, I do want to encourage you all to hit the like button and subscribe if you haven't yet already. We're almost at 440,000 subscribers, and it'd be pretty sweet if we got there before the new year. So not a lot of time. But without further ado, let's get right into the video, starting off with Kevin O'Leary talking about how Canada is in the shitter because of Justin Trudeau.
Good friend Kevin O'Leary, who joins us this morning. Kevin, we understand you're headed to Mar-a-Lago to meet with President-elect Trump. You have said you want to broker a deal that will create an economic union between the U.S. and Canada. Is that right?
Yes, there's no reason to be fighting. We've been talking about this for decades, and I think the time is right. What I did, and I've been doing this now for about 48 hours, and I'm getting a lot of feedback from the Canadian public. I enjoy a very large social media following there. So I said to them, look, what deal do you want? And they definitely don't want to give up their sovereignty, but they really want to explore this idea of an economic union, because Canada, you think about 40 million people, size of California, unlimited resources, unlimited power, unlimited gas, unlimited water, unlimited lumber, unlimited everything. Yeah. And they're not stupid. They're thinking, wait a second, what if we had free trade east, west, north, south? And that we put all our resources in, instead of squabbling on our own border between Canada and the United States, and put all that money up into protecting ourselves against the Chinese and the Russians up north. That all makes sense to Canadians. They just don't want to give up their sovereignty. Just like somebody born in Louisiana doesn't want to be born somewhere else. They want to say, look, I was born in Calgary, whatever. But the way to solve for that is a passport, no different than the EU. Any American get it, any Canadian can get it, get the background check. They're starting to like that idea a lot more than the idea of selling out the whole country.
Oh, it'd be interesting to see what kind of headway you can make with the president-elect. I feel like he would be open to something like that.
I think he's a great negotiator, and he throws out these outlandish ideas, and then what falls through the cracks is the winning stuff. I really think the two countries should get together, and I'm licking my chops at the opportunity of being involved, because right now we've got a leadership that's collapsing. Justin Trudeau is on his way out,
So what's kind of disappointing is the fact that he talks about all the things that you and I know. Canada is collapsing under Justin Trudeau, and he wants to talk about forming some sort of deal. What I don't like is that he's ignoring the fact that Pierre, who's somebody who, if I'm not mistaken, I don't know if Kevin O'Leary's endorsed him, but I think he's spoken about him in a positive light, if I'm not mistaken. He fails to mention this at any time when he's talking about these types of issues. And that kind of irks me, because if you're going to openly talk about Canada being sold, at least talk about how Canada has one last chance of being fixed, right? The Conservatives' plan seems to be a very tangible plan, which is why you have so many people, not in the thousands or hundreds of thousands. I'm talking in the millions. Millions of people are flocking to Pierre Poilievre and the Conservative Party, because he is not just a different choice than Justin Trudeau, but because he provides tangible solutions to our problems, especially economically. So I don't like that part, but again, I'm willing to listen. I'm willing to listen, and I hope you are too.
The next 5 months, there's a void in Ottawa. As I like to say, thank goodness I'm here.
Canada and America should be working hand in hand. We have a lot to provide. We have a lot to gain and benefit from each other, basically having a good, tight business relationship. Now, should Canada jump into bed and become the 51st state? I don't know. I would like to say no, but how many options do we have left? Well, I would like to explore the Conservatives' plan first and see how that goes. And then I think after that, if things aren't getting better, which they should, but if they're not getting better, then it might come to a point where Canada is very much going to be on edge about wanting to be incorporated with America. I don't know if that's the right wording.
O'Leary, by the way, I'm nosy. When are you actually going to Mar-a-Lago? Are you allowed to tell me that?
I have no idea. I'm going to the inauguration. I don't know when this narrative is going to start, but everybody knows I'm interested. Everybody knows I'm interested.
Next, we're going to take a look at Kevin O'Leary again in the same interview, who's talking about Premier Danielle Smith and how the Alberta Premier is calling on Trudeau to resign, which is a crazy thing to do. Like, I understand Kevin O'Leary is Canadian, but he resides in America, if I'm not mistaken, most of the time. And he's going on American business channels like Fox Business. And it just feels like Canada is this viral topic for everyone to talk crap about. And I mean, I like talking shit about Justin Trudeau just as much as the next person, but I can't wait for Canada to be a bit more of a, recognized and stable country that people actually respect, not that people like to use as a derogatory slur. Oh, you're Canadian. Let's take a look at this video, shall we?
I want to explore this idea of an economic union because Canada, but you think about 40 million people, size of California, unlimited resources, unlimited power, unlimited gas, unlimited water, unlimited lumber, unlimited everything. Yeah. And they're not stupid. They're thinking, wait a second, what if we had free trade east, west, north, south? And that we put all our resources in, instead of squabbling on our own border between Canada and the United States, and put all that money up into protecting ourselves against the Chinese and the Russians up north. That all makes sense to Canadians.
So that was Kevin O'Leary on Fox Business earlier this morning. So the Alberta Premier, Danielle Smith, is here. There are way too many barriers for Canada to join the United States in terms of statehood. But why do you think the idea of statehood is resonating with Canadians?
I think it's resonating with Americans more than Canadians, frankly. I think there's a number of Canadians who are really concerned that what started off as a joke seems to keep on coming back and back and back. What Canadians really want is a preservation of the incredible trading and defense partnership that we've had with the Americans since our founding. We are the largest trading partner with the United States. We buy more goods from the United States than anyone else. Mexico is second. We buy more goods, in fact, than Germany, Italy, France, the UK, and Vietnam combined. So we have a very strong relationship. What we're worried about here is a 25% tariff that could potentially disrupt that cross-border trade flow. So I think there are some people putting forward ideas about how that might be resolved. I personally think the way it would be to resolve is to have no tariffs, as we've had in the past, and get back to talking about some of the other trade irritants that are causing the new incoming president to have concerns about Canada as a partner.
The coolest thing about Danielle Smith is that she's actually, if I'm not mistaken, the only Canadian politician that is going down to watch Trump's inauguration and personally congratulate him. So that's pretty phenomenal. And as well as the fact that she has taken it upon herself to deal with a lot of these border negotiations, which is federal jurisdiction by all means. But Danielle Smith has been so proactive and so against these tariffs that she's going, hey, Trudeau's screwing us over. We need to take matters in our own hands and basically please the overlords, or specifically Trump, so that he does not go through with these tariffs. And since the threats of putting on the tariffs, there hasn't been any mention of any praise of Canada or any particular politicians, whether it's federal or in this case provincial, that, hey, you guys in Canada are doing a good job, and keep that up, and you're not going to get those tariffs. None of that has been mentioned. So is it a bluff? Is he going to pull out of it last minute, or is he going to go through with it? That's kind of an unanswered question that nobody has except for Trump himself. So we are living in extremely scary and volatile times.
Well, and you and I have talked before about the border between the U.S. and Canada. There's now a $1.3 billion security proposal on the Canadian side. Last Friday, the Canadian foreign minister and the finance minister met with President-elect Trump, as well as the border czar. Out of that meeting, one official saying that President-elect is more focused, away from little of the border, but to the trade deficit that the U.S. has Canada. What do you make of all that?
Well, if you look back a few years in sort of around 2015, Canada actually had the trade deficit with the U.S. I think that's a demonstration of how balanced our trade is sometimes we have a deficit and sometimes you do. And often it's really related to commodity prices. As we know, in the last 10 years, commodity prices have gone up, and that pretty well explains most of that difference. But that's also beneficial to Americans. I mean, America is looking for where they're going to get critical minerals. How are they going to make sure that they have enough oil and gas to keep gas prices low? Where are they going to be able to get food product to process and then ship around the world, including back to us? And so I would say that that if we can take the issue of commodity prices out of the mix, we actually have what it is that the U.S. president is looking for, is a fair and balanced trade relationship. I think that personally that the president has good reason to turn his sights to other jurisdictions that that have a massive trade deficit, are not buying the equivalent amount of American goods. And that seems to me to be where his issue lies. I think Canada will continue to be a really great trading partner with the United States, and that balanced trade is what other countries should be aspiring to.
Yeah, and to your point, Canada's ambassador to Washington says that the trade deficit last year was $75 billion, but a third of that was energy exports, where the U.S., and that's where the deficit looks bad, is when oil prices remain high. Canada has, one of the U.S.'s closest allies. The prime minister, though, is facing an election in 2025. Is all of this hurting his re-election chances?
Most definitely. I mean, I think you're beginning to see even his own party is calling for an election or for him to resign. I've been calling for an election for some time. We are now, with the United States and the inauguration on January 20th, facing a president who has a 4-year mandate. We certainly need to have a leader here who has an equal mandate, a 4-year mandate, so that these negotiations can continue and there's the credibility at the table. So I think there does need to be an election sooner rather than later. And I hope that we don't end up seeing really massive tariffs and a beginning of a trade war in the meantime. I think that would be terrible for both Canadian consumers and American consumers. Because to your point about energy, part of the benefit you get from having Canadian energy is if we had a 25% tariff, it would cost $1 a gallon more. And I don't think American consumers want that.
We're running out of time. I want to get this in 15 seconds. You're coming to the inauguration of President-elect Trump. Why is it important for you to be here for that?
Because of all of the trading partners, and we have provinces instead of states. The Alberta has a $188 billion cross-border trade relationship with the United States. I want to talk to as many members of the incoming administration as I can to make sure that trading partnership stays strong, and know that we're here as a friend and ally. We're here to help.
And warm things up. I appreciate it.
Yeah, and it'll be even bigger if everybody gets along and we can turn those damn taps on and start producing way more oil and start mining a lot of our resources, because Canada is one of the richest countries in terms of our land. We just don't have the right management right now using those resources to its maximum or even a portion of its potential. But I'd love to know your guys' thoughts and comments down below. Do you think that Danielle Smith and the federal Conservative Party have what it takes to actually fix and reverse these tariff threats? Or do you think that it's going to happen regardless? Let me know what you guys think down below. And now we got to take a look here at, speaking of just Americans talking about Canada, there's a big podcast called Valuetainment. It's Patrick Bet-David, and on that podcast he had a guest, and they were talking about how Trudeau is a dead man walking. Canadians turn on Trudeau and demand his resignation. So we're just going to take a quick little glimpse into this podcast.
Justin Trudeau,
governor,
rumors were spreading yesterday that he may be stepping down and resigning. So there's 2 clips up here, Rob. If you can play the other one where he's in the house. I don't know if you have the one. No, it's not this one. But go ahead and play this clip. This will tell us a little bit, and then I'll send you the other clip. Go for it.
Mr. Trudeau is being held in office by one man, Jagmeet Singh. A fifth of Liberal MPs have written a letter for him to resign. His deputy prime minister has walked out on him. His housing minister has quit. That on top of numerous other female ministers who stormed out after his appalling mistreatment and abuse and dishonesty towards them. 80% of Canadians have lost confidence in this Prime Minister. So why is Jagmeet Singh making the entire country wait for him to get his pension? That is the question today.
There you go. And by the way, the other clip he's talking about the fellow is this guy, right? That's keeping him in?
Yes.
Go for it. Go ahead, Rob.
Today I'm calling on Justin Trudeau to resign. He has to go.
Oh, wow.
Right now, Canadians are struggling with the cost of living. I hear it everywhere I go. People cannot find a home that they can afford. They can't buy their groceries. And on top of that, we have
The most
Trump
hated man in
threatening tariffs
Canada.
at 25%, which put hundreds and thousands of Canadian jobs at risk. And instead of focusing on these issues, Justin Trudeau and the Liberals are focused on themselves. They're fighting themselves instead of fighting for Canadians. And for that reason, today I'm calling on Justin Trudeau to resign. He has to go.
Tom.
So I'll give Americans a quick little history lesson. 2020, we know what happened in our election over here. Biden defeated Trump narrowly amidst COVID and all the stuff that was going on. In 2021, Justin Trudeau won 39% liberal, 36% conservative. Now, remember, Canadians, if you go up there, you'll see orange signs, white signs, green signs, blue signs. You know, over in America, you see red and blue. They have 4 very, very viable parties and 2 small ones. And so it was 39% liberal, 36% conservative. So in other words...
Yeah. So, I mean, he did, yes, Trudeau has survived multiple different elections, but that's not going to be the case moving forward. You have right here proof that Trudeau will not hit 39%. In fact, Pierre Poilievre has absorbed the majority of that 39% that he hit in 2021. Pierre's sitting at 44% popular vote. Trudeau's down to 21, and the NDP is trailing right behind at 19. And then you still have 232 projected seats where he only needs 172. Trudeau's down to 39. And the NDP is right behind at 25. So it doesn't really matter what's happened in the past. It's almost like giving financial advice or monitoring stocks. You know, past behavior is not an indicator of future results. And so that's kind of what's happening right now. Even though Trudeau has survived many different elections, he's not going to politically survive this one, right? His career is absolutely done.
A lot of pride of Canadians, and they should have pride in their country, right? How would you feel if your guy goes out to visit a foreign leader right next door at a time where the rest of the world's trying to play nice and try to get his attention, and suddenly he comes back and all of a sudden he's saying, well, I think we'll just tariff Canada the 25%. I didn't get anywhere from Governor Trudeau. Maybe he should be the 51st state. How does it make you feel as a Canadian member of parliament? You say, why did you make Trump tease us like this? Mm-hmm. Justin, what the hell did you do? So that's what's going on. He's about to suffer a huge defeat. They're like, you're going to get crushed anyway. Let's not wait for the election. Why don't you resign? Let's elect a new prime minister. This is going to be a more conservative government that we have here. And let's talk to the United States about fairness in our trading so that we don't have the tariffs happen. That is what the moderates are saying, Pat. Let's get a dialogue with the U.S. and not have these things come true, because Canadian papers, I could pull one, Rob, you don't have to look for it, but it's out there. They had a little thing that said days until inauguration. Why are they saying that? Because they regard that, Pat, as a countdown to negotiate the tariff situation. So guess who's negotiating?
Well, sort of. I mean, that's not entirely true. Most Canadians, most Canadians who watch, like I'd say like 90% of Canadians that are watching Canadian news, Canadian politics, 90% of those people, right? You people are also watching American politics. It just kind of goes hand in hand. We're tied at the hip. We have the largest trade deal with America. Our stock market is directly influenced by the American stock market. So the countdown to Trump's inauguration, yeah, we're neighbors. It's also America's the biggest superpower in the world. And so, of course, it's not just Canadians that are watching what's going on and waiting for that countdown, but the tariffs is a very big factor in that. But I don't think many people are waiting for Trump's inauguration to see what happens with the tariffs specifically. It's more just we're watching and waiting to see Trump's inauguration and what the hell's going to happen with the world. But the tariffs are obviously a thought in the bucket, basically. I'd love to know what you guys think down below in the comments. And then I also want to ask you, how do you feel about American, Fox News talking so much about Canadian politics and Canadian politicians going on those talk shows or those news channels And then big American influencers like Valuetainment and others alike, Ben Shapiro, blah, blah, blah. How do you feel about them talking about Canadian politics? Does it bother you? Are you for that idea? Let me know down below in the comments. That is where we are going to end this video, everybody. Hope you enjoyed it. If you did, be sure to drop a like and subscribe to the channel, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye for now.